My name is Helen Miller, and after 35 years of teaching at Lincoln Elementary in Columbus, Ohio, I was finally retired. The first 2 days of retirement felt like a dream. I woke up when I wanted, made my coffee just the way I liked it, and sat in my living room surrounded by travel brochures. Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, the Pacific Coast Highway. Places I'd only seen in magazines or on TV, places I'd promised myself I'd visit one day when I had the time and the money. Now, at 67, I finally had the time, if not the money, but I was determined to make it work. I'd spent my whole life working since I was 22, first as a teacher, then as a single mother after my husband Richard died in a pileup on the interstate. I raised my son Michael alone, pinching every penny, working double shifts, and sacrificing every comfort so he could have a better life. Now, for the first time, I was thinking about myself. That afternoon, I was sitting on my old faded sofa, a cup of chamomile tea in my hand, and a stack of brochures spread out on the coffee table. I was circling routes on a map, dreaming about the open road, when the phone rang. I glanced at the screen and saw Brooke's name. My daughter-in-law? I hesitated. Whenever she called, it was never to say hello or check in. It was always to ask for something, usually money or a favor. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but something in me said to answer. Maybe it was habit, maybe it was hope that this time would be different. I pressed the green button and put the phone to my ear. "Hello, Brooke," I said, trying to sound cheerful. She didn't bother with pleasantries. "Helen, I have an incredible opportunity in Miami. It's a multi-level marketing conference. It's going to change our lives. I need to go for 2 weeks." I could already feel the tension building in my shoulders. "That's nice, Brooke. I hope it goes well." She steamrolled right over me. "The kids can't miss 2 weeks of school, so I'll leave them with you. I'll drop them off tomorrow at 7 a.m. I blinked, stunned. "I'm sorry, what?" She let out a sharp, impatient laugh. "Don't play deaf, Helen. I said I'm going to leave Aiden, Chloe, and Leo with you. After all, you don't do anything anymore. You can watch them while I travel. It's perfect. Now that you're not working, you have all the time in the world." I felt my blood pressure rising. This woman, who had never worked an honest day in her life, who lived off my son's back, was telling me I did nothing. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Brooke, I have plans." She laughed again, that high, grating sound I'd come to dread. Plans? What plans can a retired old woman have? Knitting? Watching soap operas? "Please, Helen, don't be ridiculous. I'll drop them off tomorrow at 7. And don't give them junk food like last time." I gripped the phone tighter. "The last time?" I wanted to say more, but she cut me off. "The last time I saw my grandchildren was 6 months ago at Christmas, and only for 2 hours because, according to her, they had to go to their other grandparents' house, the important ones, the ones with money. I'm not going to watch them for you, Brooke." There was a pause, then her voice turned cold. "What do you mean you're not? You're their grandmother. It's your obligation. Besides, Michael agrees. I knew my son didn't know about this. He worked 14 hours a day at the manufacturing plant to support Brooke's whims. He barely had time to eat, let alone plan a 2-week trip for his wife. "If you ever want to see your grandchildren again, you'd better cooperate," she threatened. "Because I decide if they have a grandmother or not." Something inside me snapped. Or maybe it finally woke up. I'd spent my whole life putting others first, swallowing my pride, letting people walk all over me for the sake of peace. But this was too much. I heard my own voice, calm and sweet, but with a steel edge I hadn't used in years. "All right, Brooke. Bring them over tomorrow." She sounded satisfied, triumphant. "That's more like it. And don't spoil them. You know they're difficult children, but that's because you never knew how to raise Michael properly. If he'd had a decent mother..." I ended the call before she could finish. My hand was shaking. I stared at the framed retirement certificate on the wall. 35 years shaping generations, and my own daughter-in-law treated me like a free servant. I thought about all the times I'd bitten my tongue, all the times I'd let her insults slide for Michael's sake, for the children's sake. But if I'd learned anything in all those years, it was that the best lessons aren't taught with words. They're taught with actions. I sat there for a long time, the phone still in my hand, my tea growing cold. I thought about the sacrifices I'd made for Michael. After Richard died, I was left with a 3-year-old boy and $100 in the bank. I worked double shifts, morning at the public school, afternoons tutoring. Michael always ate before I did. If there was money for a pair of shoes, they were for him. If there was enough left for a toy on his birthday, I pretended I wasn't hungry that night. My mother used to tell me, "Helen, you're going to kill yourself working like this. Find another husband, someone who can provide for you." But I would look at Michael with those brown eyes, just like his father's, and I knew no stepfather would ever love him like I did. No strange man was going to give him the love I could. I remembered the Christmas when Michael was 8. I'd saved for 6 months to buy him the bicycle he wanted so badly. On the 24th, while he was sleeping, I realized I didn't have money for Christmas dinner. I sold my only piece of jewelry that wasn't my wedding ring, a locket from my grandmother, for $50 so I could make a turkey with all the trimmings. Michael never knew. To him, his mother was invincible. His mother could do anything, and that's how it had to be. When he got to high school, the expenses multiplied. Books, clothes, bus fare, supplies. I was still working my double shifts. Now I also sold pies at the church bake sale on Sundays. My hands. Look at my wrinkled, stained hands with joints swollen from kneading dough at 4 in the morning. But it was all worth it when Michael got into Ohio State University for industrial engineering. I was bursting with pride. My son, the son of the widow Miller, the one who grew up without a father, was going to be an engineer. It was in his junior year that Brooke appeared. "Mom, I want you to meet someone special," he told me one Sunday after church. There she was in her pastel pink dress, her perfect smile, her shiny black hair falling in waves over her shoulders. She looked like a porcelain doll. She hugged me with a warmth that completely disarmed me. "Oh, Mrs. Miller, Michael has told me so much about you. I admire you so much, raising such a wonderful son all by yourself. You're my hero." How could I not fall into her trap? I, who had spent 20 years without a sincere hug that wasn't from my son, suddenly had this pretty young girl calling me a hero. The first few years were good. Brooke would come to the house, help me cook, tell me about her humble family from a small town in West Virginia. Her father was a coal miner, her mother a waitress. "That's why I understand you so much, Mrs. Miller. You and I know what it's like to struggle." Lies. It was all lies. But I was so happy to see Michael in love that I didn't want to see the signs. They got married when Michael graduated. I paid for half the wedding with my retirement savings. "It's an investment in my son's happiness," I justified to myself. Brooke cried with emotion, or so I thought. Now I know she was crying because she expected a more lavish wedding. The change was gradual, like poison administered in small doses. First came the subtle comments. "Oh, Helen, what a shame Michael didn't have a father figure. You can see it in his lack of ambition. If you had saved better, Michael could have gone to a private university. No offense, but your pies are very simple. I make them with more ingredients, more gourmet." Each comment was a small stab, but I endured them. For Michael. Always for Michael. When Aiden, my first grandson, was born, I thought things would get better. I rushed to the hospital with the blanket I had knitted for 9 months. Brooke looked at it and set it aside. "Thanks, but we already have everything from Nordstrom." "This? Well, we can donate it, Nordstrom." While I was still buying my clothes at Goodwill to save for my son's future, she was shopping at Nordstrom with Michael's salary. Then came Chloe and Leo. With each grandchild, I drifted further away. Brooke had 1,000 excuses. The children needed a routine. I would spoil them. My house wasn't safe for children. My parenting ideas were old-fashioned. You just don't understand, Helen. Kids today need early stimulation. English classes, swimming, robotics, not just peanut butter and jelly sandwiches like Michael grew up on. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. My son grew up with love, with values, with the certainty that he was cherished. But Brooke had started her campaign to push me away. And Michael was too tired from working to notice. The hardest blow came 2 years ago. It was Chloe's 5th birthday. I had saved for 3 months to buy her the dollhouse she had seen at the mall. I arrived at their house with the wrapped gift and my best dress. The party was in the backyard. There was a bouncy castle, clowns, even a princess show, and I was not on the guest list. "Oh, Helen, what a shame," Brooke said at the door, not letting me in. "It's just a party for her friends from school and their parents. You understand? They're different people. We wouldn't want you to feel uncomfortable." Uncomfortable. The birthday girl's grandmother was going to make the different people uncomfortable. At exactly 7 a.m., the doorbell rang. Not a minute early, not a minute late. Brooke was always punctual when it suited her, especially when she was dropping her responsibilities on someone else. I opened the door to find her standing there, perfectly put together in a crisp white blouse and designer sunglasses, her lips painted a sharp red. Behind her, 3 children stood in a row, each with a suitcase nearly as big as themselves. Aiden, 12, was already glued to his phone, thumbs moving rapidly, not even glancing up. Chloe, 10, wore a scowl that seemed too practiced for her age, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Leo, 7, looked around for the television, his eyes darting past me into the house. Brooke didn't bother to step inside. She handed me a list, printed and color-coded. Aiden is allergic to dust. Chloe won't eat anything with green vegetables. Leo needs his iPad to fall asleep. Their medicines are in the blue suitcase. I'll be back in 2 weeks. And Michael is working, as always. Someone has to support this family. She looked me up and down, her gaze lingering on my old house slippers. Not all of us are lucky enough to retire with a government pension. I thought of my $1,500 a month, the result of 35 years of service, and how she spent more than that on her nails and eyelash extensions. The children shuffled inside, dragging their feet. Aiden didn't look up from his phone. Chloe wrinkled her nose as if she'd just walked into a barn. Leo immediately started searching for the remote. Brooke leaned in close, her voice dropping to a hiss. And don't you dare fill their heads with ideas. Remember, I decide if they ever see you again. She straightened, called out a half-hearted, "Be good for your grandmother." And then she was gone. The sound of her heels clicking down the walkway and the engine of her SUV roaring to life. I closed the door and turned to face my grandchildren. They looked at me as if I were a stranger, or worse, the enemy. I remembered all the moments when Brooke had built this wall between us. Like the time 3 years ago when I wanted to give Michael $500 for a down payment on a used car, and Brooke intercepted the money. "Oh, Helen, it's better if we use it for the kids' school tuition. Education comes first, don't you think?" I never saw a receipt for that tuition. A month later, Brooke appeared with a Louis Vuitton handbag. "A friend gave it to me," she said when I asked. Or when my sister Linda died and left me $5,000 in her will. I told Michael excitedly, thinking I could finally fix the roof of my house that leaked every time it rained. Brooke found out. "Helen, Michael and I are in a tough spot. The company I was working for went bankrupt. Another one of her failed multi-level marketing ventures. And we urgently need that money. We'll pay you back with interest. It's been 2 years, and I haven't seen a single dollar. My roof still leaks, and now I have to put out buckets every time it rains. But Brooke's trip to Cancun with her friends last year that she could afford. Grandma, where's the Wi-Fi?" Aiden's voice jolted me out of my thoughts. "I need the Wi-Fi now." I looked at him, his face already twisted in annoyance. "The modem is broken," I lied, having unplugged it on purpose. "What? No way, Mom! Mom!" He started shouting as if he were being tortured. "Your mom is gone, Aiden, and screaming isn't going to bring the internet back." He glared at me. "You're the worst grandmother in the world. That's why nobody likes you." I recognized Brooke's poison in his words, but I didn't let it show on my face. "I'm hungry," Chloe interrupted, her tone sharp. "But I'm not going to eat anything you cook. Mom says you're a terrible cook and that's why Dad is so skinny." Leo piped up. "And I want to watch YouTube. At home, I watch YouTube all day." I looked at the 3 of them, perfect products of neglect disguised as modern parenting. Children who knew no limits, who didn't understand respect, who had been programmed to despise me. I remembered last Christmas. I had prepared my specialty, a holiday turkey with stuffing, green bean casserole, and cranberry sauce. I arrived at their house with the pan still warm. The kids ran to the kitchen, drawn by the smell. "Don't touch that," Brooke yelled. "We don't know under what conditions your grandmother prepared it. We'd better order pizza." I watched as she threw my food in the trash without even trying it. The children looked at me with pity, as if I were a beggar who had brought leftovers. "Grandma's food is too greasy," Brooke explained to them. "And her kitchen has cockroaches." A lie. My kitchen is cleaner than an operating room. But Michael was there, watching it all, and he only said, "Brooke knows what's best for the kids." That night, I decided my son was lost. But my grandchildren might still have a chance. "Grandma, do something. We're bored." Aiden threw a cushion on the floor. "You know what?" I told them calmly. "Your mother asked me to take care of you. not to entertain you. There's food in the kitchen, water in the tap, and beds to sleep in. If you need anything else, you'll have to earn it. Chloe looked offended. We're kids. We don't have to earn anything in this house. Everyone contributes. That's how I was raised. That's how I raised your father before your mother ruined him. And that's how these 2 weeks are going to work, Leo threatened. I'm going to tell my mom you're mean. Go ahead. And while you're at it, tell her I found her Facebook page very interesting, especially the photos from Puerto Vallarta last month when she was supposedly at a training seminar. The children fell silent. They didn't understand what I was talking about, but they sensed that their grandmother was not the same person anymore. That first night was hell. Aiden kicked his bedroom door. Chloe cried for hours, demanding her special food. Leo wet the bed on purpose. They wanted to break me, just like their mother had tried to break me for years. But that's when I made the discovery that would change everything. At 2 in the morning, I heard sobs from Chloe's room. These weren't tantrums. They were real tears. I entered silently and found her hugging a crumpled photo. What do you have there, my girl? She startled and hid the photo under her pillow. Nothing. Go away. But I had seen enough. It was a picture of me with her when she was a baby. One of the few times I was allowed to hold her before Brooke began her campaign of alienation. Do you miss your mom? I asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. No, she answered quickly. Too quickly. Mom always leaves. She's used to it. I'm used to it. There it was. The first crack in the armor. Brooke hadn't just abandoned me. She had abandoned her own children, using money and gifts as a substitute for love. Chloe, how often does your mom go on trips? I asked. I don't know. Once a month, sometimes more. She always says it's for work, but nothing. I'm not supposed to talk about it. Mom says family problems stay in the family. The golden rule of abusers, silence. I got up and walked to the door. Before leaving, I turned back. Chloe, would you like to learn how to make the pecan cookies you used to love when you were little? Her eyes lit up for a second before they dimmed again. Mom says your kitchen is dirty. Your mom says a lot of things. Why don't you find out for yourself tomorrow? I closed the door, leaving Chloe with her thoughts. The first seed had been planted. What I didn't know then was that Aiden's phone, the one he couldn't use without Wi-Fi, held messages that would reveal Brooke's darkest secret. Messages that would explain why she had really gone to Miami. And when I discovered them, I understood that I wasn't just saving my grandchildren. I was saving my entire family from a woman who was far more dangerous than I had ever imagined. The second day dawned differently. I already had my plan in motion. At 6 in the morning, before the children woke up, Carol arrived with a shoebox. Here's everything you asked for, she whispered, handing me the package. 3 recorders the size of a button, a camera that looks like a smoke detector, and this. She pulled out a manila envelope, the credit reports I'd requested. Helen, your daughter-in-law has debts of $30,000, all in Michael's name. My heart sank. My poor son had no idea. And your sister from Child Protective Services. She's coming tomorrow at 3 as a casual routine visit. But Helen, you need concrete evidence if you want to do something legal. Evidence. That was exactly what I was going to get. When the children woke up, breakfast was on the table. Pancakes shaped like animals, fruit cut into stars, chocolate milk, not the horrible food their mother had told them I made. Aiden was the first to come down, still in his wrinkled pajamas. He stopped short when he saw the table. What's this? Breakfast. Eat before it gets cold. He sat down suspiciously, took a bite, and for the first time, I saw something resembling a smile. But he immediately composed himself. It's okay. I've had better. Chloe and Leo came down, drawn by the smell. Leo launched himself directly at the pancakes. They're delicious, Grandma. Shut up, stupid, Chloe elbowed him. We're not supposed to... She trailed off. You're not supposed to what, Chloe? Nothing. After breakfast, I laid out my rules. If you want Wi-Fi, television, or any privileges, you have to earn them. Aiden, your job is to wash the dishes. Chloe, make the beds. Leo, pick up the toys. That's child labor, Aiden shouted. No, my boy. Child labor is what I see on your mother's phone. I took out my phone and showed a screenshot of Brooke's Facebook page. Look, here's your mom in Miami on the beach with a man who is not your father. The 3 children gathered to see. In the photo, Brooke was in a bikini hugging a man who was definitely not Michael. The evidence I found on Aiden's phone was more than enough to make my hands tremble. I sat at the kitchen table late into the night, scrolling through messages, screenshots, and photos. Brooke and Dominic's conversations were a blueprint for betrayal. They discussed how Michael was too tired and distracted to notice the money disappearing, how the children would be left with me as soon as the divorce was final, and how the house, my house, was the last piece of the puzzle. Brooke wrote, "The old woman's house is worth at least $200,000. When she dies, Michael inherits, and as his wife, half is mine. Or was mine. We'll see how we can get all of it." Dominic replied, "Just make sure the brats don't get in the way. Once we're in Miami, it's a new life." I took photos of every message, every bank statement, every Facebook post. I printed them out and put them in a folder, my hands steady with purpose. The next morning, I called Carol. She came over with her sister Lauren, who worked at Child Protective Services. Lauren reviewed the evidence, her face growing more serious with every page. "Helen, this is more than neglect. This is premeditated parental alienation and financial fraud. You need a lawyer." Carol nodded. "I know someone. He specializes in family law and cases like this." I called Mr. Martinez, and he agreed to meet us the next day. I felt a strange sense of calm. For the first time in years, I wasn't just reacting, I was acting. Meanwhile, the children were changing. The first few days had been a battlefield. Aiden sulked and muttered insults under his breath. Chloe refused to eat anything I cooked, pushing her plate away and demanding takeout. Leo alternated between tantrums and sullen silence. But I held firm. I set routines, breakfast at 8, chores after, reading time, then free time if they earned it. I made a chart and put it on the fridge. "Everyone contributes," I told them. "That's how families work." At first they resisted. Aiden rolled his eyes and said, "This is like prison." Chloe pouted. Leo tried to sneak his iPad from his suitcase, but I had already hidden it. On the third day, something shifted. Chloe wandered into the kitchen while I was making cookies. She watched me for a while, then asked, "Can I help?" I handed her the bowl and showed her how to cream the butter and sugar. She was quiet at first, but then she started talking. "Grandma, why does Mom hate you?" I paused, wiping my hands on a towel. "She doesn't hate me, Chloe. She's just afraid of me." Chloe frowned. "Why would she be afraid of you?" "Because I remind her of everything she isn't. I worked hard, I built something, I raised your dad with love and rules. She wants everything easy, and when she sees me, she remembers that she chose the wrong path." Chloe was silent for a long time, then she said, "I like your cookies better than the ones from the store." I smiled and let her lick the spoon. Aiden was harder to reach. He spent most of his time in the backyard, kicking a soccer ball against the fence. One afternoon I joined him, sitting on the porch steps. "You know, your dad used to do the same thing when he was your age," I said. He didn't answer, just kicked the ball harder. He was angry too. He missed his dad. He thought it was unfair that he had to grow up so fast. Aiden stopped, the ball rolling to a stop at his feet. "Did you ever get tired?" he asked. "Every day. But I kept going because I loved him. And I love you." He didn't say anything, but that night he set the table without being asked. Leo was the first to break. He came to me one night, clutching his stuffed bear. "Grandma, do you think Mom loves me?" I knelt down and hugged him. "Of course she does, Leo. She just doesn't know how to show it." He sniffled. "She told Uncle Dominic that I was a mistake." I heard her. My heart broke. "You are not a mistake, Leo. You are a gift. And I love you very much." He nodded and crawled into my lap, falling asleep as I stroked his hair. The next day, Michael came over after work. He looked exhausted, his eyes sunken, his shoulders slumped. I sat him down at the kitchen table and handed him the folder. "What's this, Mom?" he asked. "Just look." He flipped through the pages, his face growing paler with each one. When he reached the messages between Brooke and Dominic, his hands started to shake. "This can't be real," he whispered. "She wouldn't." "She did, Michael. She's been planning this for months. She's taken out credit cards in your name, emptied your savings, and she's planning to take the kids to Miami." He put his head in his hands and sobbed. I put my hand on his back and let him cry. Aiden stood in the doorway watching. He walked over and put his hand on his father's shoulder. "It's okay, Dad, we already knew." Michael looked up, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry, Aiden. I should have protected you. Aiden shook his head. You're protecting us now. Chloe and Leo joined them, and for the first time in years, the four of them hugged, clinging to each other like survivors after a storm. That night, we made a plan. Michael would take a week off work. The children would stay with me. We would document everything, every conversation, every incident, every sign of neglect. Lauren would make a home visit and write a report. Mr. Martinez would file for emergency custody and start divorce proceedings. We would not let Brooke take the children. The days that followed were a whirlwind. We established routines. Wake up at 7, breakfast at 8, chores, reading, outdoor play, lunch, quiet time, then free time if they earned it. I taught Chloe how to bake bread. Aiden helped me weed the garden. Leo learned to ride a bike without training wheels. We had family dinners every night, sitting around the table, sharing stories. At first, the children were stiff and awkward, but slowly they relaxed. They started to laugh, to tease each other, to ask questions about their dad's childhood. Michael came alive, too. He played board games with the kids, helped Aiden with his math homework, read bedtime stories to Leo. We started therapy sessions with Dr. Wallace, a psychologist Carol recommended. She came to the house 3 times a week. The children were wary at first, but Dr. Wallace was gentle and patient. She told me, "These children have been used as pawns in a sick game. The mother has conditioned them to reject any authority but her own, but paradoxically, she herself is absent. It's a classic case of parental alienation combined with emotional neglect." I asked, "Can it be reversed?" She nodded. "With time, patience, and a lot of love. But yes, it can." Little by little, the children began to heal. Chloe asked to help with dinner. Aiden started talking about his friends at school. Leo drew pictures of our family, always including me and Michael, but never Brooke. One evening, after dinner, Aiden came to me. "Grandma, why did you never defend yourself? All these years when Mom said bad things about you, why didn't you say anything?" I thought for a moment. "Because I thought keeping the peace was more important than being right." But I was wrong. Sometimes silence isn't peace. It's complicity with abuse. He nodded, understanding more than I expected. On the 5th day, the children organized a dinner for Michael and me. They cooked with supervision, set the table, and made a centerpiece with flowers from the garden. "It's to say thank you," Aiden explained. "Thank you for not giving up on us." During dinner, Michael received a message from Brooke. She says she'll be here in 5 days and hopes the kids are ready. Chloe asked, "Ready for what?" Michael looked at me, and I knew it was time to tell them the truth. "Kids, when your mother comes back, things are going to change a lot. Dad is going to file for divorce." I expected tears, protest, drama. Instead, Leo asked, "Are we still going to be able to come to Grandma's?" Michael smiled. "You're going to live with me, and you'll see your grandma every day if you want." Aiden tried to sound indifferent, but I saw the pain in his eyes. "And Mom?" Michael answered honestly, "Your mom will have to make decisions. But no matter what happens, you are going to be okay. I promise you." That night, as I tucked Leo in, he whispered, "Grandma, you know what? I don't miss the iPad anymore." It was a small miracle, but big changes always start with small miracles. There were 5 days left until Brooke's return, 5 days to finish preparing everything. Because when she walked through that door, she wouldn't find the broken children she had left, nor the submissive mother-in-law she expected to manipulate. She would find a united, strong family ready for battle. And I, the old retired teacher who, according to her, did nothing, was about to teach her the most important lesson of her life. It was the 12th day, and the house felt different. There was a sense of anticipation in the air, a quiet strength that hadn't been there before. Michael and I sat in the living room. The folder of evidence on the coffee table between us, every document in order, every screenshot printed and clipped. Mr. Martinez, the lawyer, arrived early, his briefcase full of legal forms and a calm, reassuring presence. Carol texted from her house. The children were safe, playing in the yard, unaware of the storm about to break. At 12:03, the sound of Brooke's SUV pulling into the driveway made my heart pound. Michael squeezed my hand. "She has no power over us anymore," he said, and I believed him. The front door opened without a knock. Brooke swept in, tanned and dressed in a new designer dress, dragging a Louis Vuitton suitcase behind her. She didn't look at me, just scanned the room for her children. "Michael, what are you doing here?" "You should be at work." "Where are the kids?" "I hope you haven't spoiled them, Helen. It's hard enough for me to—" She stopped when she saw Mr. Martinez. He stood and introduced himself. "Mrs. Miller, I'm Mr. Martinez. I represent Mr. Miller in the divorce and emergency custody proceedings he has initiated." Brooke's face flickered with confusion, then disbelief. "Divorce? Michael, honey, what did your mother do to you now? You know she's old and makes things up." Michael didn't flinch. He took out his phone and pressed play on an audio file. Brooke's own voice filled the room. "The brats get in my way. As soon as I can, I'll get rid of them. Michael is such an idiot. He won't even notice." Brooke's face drained of color. That's edited. It's illegal to record someone without their consent." Mr. Martinez replied, "It's also illegal to open credit cards in your husband's name without his knowledge." $30,000 in debt, Mrs. Miller. Brooke's eyes darted to the folder on the table. "Ma'am, I don't know what you're talking about." Michael placed the bank statements in front of her. "3 cards, Brooke, all documented." I added, "We also have evidence of the house in Miami, the one you bought with Dominic using the money you stole from the savings account." Brooke's voice rose, shrill and desperate. "I didn't steal anything. It's joint money." Mr. Martinez corrected her, "which you emptied without your husband's consent to buy a property in your lover's name. That's marital fraud." She turned on me, her eyes full of hatred. This is all your fault, you meddling old woman. You always wanted to separate me from Michael." I met her gaze, steady and calm. "No, Brooke. You separated yourself. I just documented your crimes." She scoffed. "Crimes? Please. What are you going to do? Sue me for being unhappy in my marriage?" Mr. Martinez pulled out another document. "For attempted international parental kidnapping. We have your complete plan to take the children to Miami without paternal consent." Brooke staggered, grabbing the back of the sofa for support. "The children are mine. I gave birth to them." I shook my head. "Children are not property, and after 13 days with me, they made a decision." Brooke's mask cracked. "What did you do to them? Did you brainwash them?" "This is parental alienation." Michael laughed bitterly. "Parental alienation? The woman who told our children their grandmother was a dirty, poor old woman is talking about alienation?" Brooke's hand shook as she reached for her phone. "I want to see my children now." Michael's voice was steel. "Not until you sign the papers." Mr. Martinez opened his briefcase. "Ma'am, you have 2 options. First, you accept the divorce, waive custody, return the stolen money, and leave without making a scene. In return, we don't press criminal charges. Second, we fight in court. With the evidence we have, you will not only lose the children, you'll face charges for fraud, attempted kidnapping, and psychological abuse. 3 to 5 years in prison." Brooke collapsed onto the sofa, her confidence gone. "You can't do this to me. I have rights." I answered. "The children also have rights. The right not to be manipulated, used, and emotionally abandoned." She tried to protest. I never abandoned them. I asked, "How many trips have you taken this year, Brooke?" 18. We have it documented. 18 times you left your children to be with Dominic." She shook her head. "That's a lie." I took out my phone and showed her the Facebook photos, her and Dominic on every trip, while her children were left with a neighbor, with anyone but their father or grandmother. "The children know everything, Brooke. They know about Uncle Dominic. They know he sleeps in their father's bed when he's not there. They know you call them brats. They know you were planning to take them to Miami." Brooke's voice was barely a whisper. "I want to talk to them." Michael was unyielding. "Not until you sign the papers." She dialed Dominic, her hands shaking. Once, twice, 3 times, no answer. "He abandoned me," she whispered. "The bastard abandoned me like you abandoned your family," I said. She jumped up, her voice shrill. "This isn't over. I will get my children back." At that moment, Chloe appeared at the door, having slipped away from Carol's house. "My love," Brooke cried, rushing toward her. Chloe stepped back. "Don't touch me." "Chloe, my baby, what did they do to you? What did this old woman tell you?" Chloe's voice was clear. "Grandma didn't tell me anything." "You said it all. In your messages with Uncle Dominic, in your lies, in every time you left us." Brooke tried to recover. I was working to give you a better life. Chloe shook her head. No, you were traveling with your lover while we thought we were orphans with living parents. Aiden and Leo appeared behind their sister, Carol hurrying after them. I'm sorry, Helen. They snuck out when I wasn't looking. I nodded. It's okay. Maybe they needed to do this. Brooke tried to approach Aiden. Son, my love, your sister is confused. Aiden's voice was steady. No, Mom. You're the one who's confused if you think we're going back with you. Brooke's voice cracked. I am your mother. Leo's small voice cut through the tension. A mother doesn't call her son a mistake. I heard you. You told Uncle Dominic that I was a mistake. Brooke turned pale. No, I didn't. You're making that up. Aiden added, a mother doesn't steal her children's college money. Chloe continued, a mother doesn't use us as an excuse for her lies. A mother protects us. The three of them spoke together, like Grandma does. The silence in the room was heavy, broken only by the ticking of the wall clock and the hum of the refrigerator. Brooke's breathing was ragged. You're going to pay for this, Helen, she hissed. You don't know who you're messing with. I met her gaze. I know exactly who I'm messing with. A narcissist who mistook kindness for weakness. But it's over, Brooke. Sign the papers and go. She glared at me, then at Michael, then at the children. And if I don't want to? Michael stood, his voice unwavering. Then we'll see you in court. And believe me, with what we have, you won't just lose the children. You'll lose everything. Brooke looked at her children one last time. For a moment, it seemed like she might cry, but her eyes were dry. She grabbed the pen, signed the papers furiously, and threw them on the table. I hope you're happy. You've just taken a mother away from these children. Leo's voice was soft, but sure. No, we just gained a family. Brooke stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The engine of her SUV roared, then faded away, taking with it 10 years of toxicity. The children ran to Michael, wrapping their arms around him, and he held them close, tears streaming down his face. I went to the kitchen to make chamomile tea, my hands steady, my heart full. Chloe asked, Is she gone for good? Michael answered honestly, If she comes back, it will be on our terms. Leo's voice trembled. If she doesn't come back... I sat with them on the floor, something I hadn't done in years. If she doesn't come back, we will move on. Because you don't beg for love. Love is given freely, or it isn't love. Aiden looked at me, his eyes searching. Grandma, are you okay? I smiled at him, feeling lighter than I had in years. For the first time in a decade, this family was free. That night, we ate the chili Chloe and I had made, Michael raising his glass of iced tea. To Mom, to the woman who saved us all. The children shouted, To Grandma. I raised my glass. To the truth. As I looked at my family, gathered around my humble table, I knew that all the pain had been worth it. The teacher had taught her last and most important lesson. 6 months had passed since the day Brooke stormed out of my house, her anger echoing in the slammed door and the screech of her SUV tires. The air in my home had changed, as if a heavy curtain had finally been lifted and sunlight could pour in. The children's laughter filled the rooms, bouncing off the walls that had once absorbed only tension and silence. My living room, which had been the scene of so much chaos and heartbreak, was now transformed every Saturday into a small art studio. Paints, brushes, and colored paper covered the table. The neighborhood children came for Helen's Art House, a name Chloe had painted on a sign and hung by the front door. I charged a modest fee, but the real reward was the sight of little hands creating, little voices singing, and the sense of community that grew with every class. Michael had changed too. The exhaustion that had once weighed down his shoulders was gone, replaced by a quiet confidence. He had been promoted to production manager at the plant, a job that came with a raise and a sense of pride he hadn't felt in years. He started coming home earlier, cooking dinner with the kids, and even joining us for art class when his schedule allowed. The children blossomed under his attention. Aiden, once sullen and angry, was now on the honor roll at school. He played soccer after class and had started writing stories, sometimes reading them aloud to us in the evenings. Chloe joined the volleyball team and made friends easily, her laughter infectious. Leo discovered a love for music, spending hours at the old piano in the corner. his small fingers learning to coax out melodies. Brooke faded from our daily lives. Her presence reduced to a name occasionally mentioned in therapy or a question from Leo about why she didn't call. The last we heard, she was working as a caregiver for the elderly in another state, a job she'd found through a friend. Chloe had seen a photo of her on Facebook, wearing scrubs and a tired smile. Aiden, with the bluntness of a teenager, remarked on the irony. Now she has to take care of old people for $20 an hour. I reminded him that honest work was always dignified, and perhaps, in her new life, Brooke might find a piece of herself she'd lost. The children's healing was not instant, but it was real. Therapy continued, and there were still nights when Leo would crawl into my bed, seeking comfort after a bad dream, or when Chloe would ask quietly if I thought her mother missed her. I always answered honestly, never promising what I couldn't guarantee, but always assuring them that they were loved, safe, and wanted. Michael and I worked hard to build new traditions. Every Saturday, we had family dinner, each of us taking turns to choose the menu and help cook. The children set the table, sometimes with mismatched plates and crooked napkins, but always with pride. After dinner, we played board games or watched old movies, the kind I used to watch with Michael when he was a boy. One Monday morning, as I was preparing for art class, the phone rang. It was the principal of Lincoln Elementary, my old school. She'd heard about my art workshops and wanted to know if I'd be interested in running after-school programs for the students. The offer was paid, but more than that, it was a chance to return to the classroom in a new way, to share my love of art and teaching with a new generation. I accepted, my heart swelling with gratitude for the second act life had given me. Mother's Day arrived, and I expected nothing more than a quiet breakfast and perhaps a card from the children. Instead, I woke to the sound of giggles and the smell of pancakes. The three of them burst into my room, carrying a tray with breakfast and a handmade card that read, "Happy Mother's Day, Mama Helen." Michael stood in the doorway, smiling. "You're more than a grandmother," he said. "You're the mother we all needed." They handed me an envelope. Inside were legal papers. Michael explained. "The children want you to be their legal guardian as well. In case something happens to me, they want to make sure they stay with you. Not with Brooke." Aiden added, "It was our idea." Tears filled my eyes as I hugged them all, overwhelmed by the love and trust they placed in me. That afternoon, after the art class ended and the neighborhood children had gone home, Leo sat beside me in the garden, watching the tomato plants we'd started from seed. He was quiet for a long time, then asked, "Grandma, do you ever miss the mom she was before?" I thought about Brooke, about the young woman who had once hugged me and called me her hero, about the years of lies and manipulation that followed. "Your mom didn't turn bad," I told him gently. "She always had that seed inside her. Some people choose to water the wrong seeds. She chose to water greed, lies, and selfishness. But you, my love, you have the seeds of love, honesty, and bravery. Every day you spend here, those seeds grow stronger." Leo nodded, satisfied, and ran off to join his siblings. The garden became our sanctuary. We planted flowers and vegetables, watched the seasons change, and celebrated every small victory. When the first tomatoes ripened, we made sauce together, the kitchen filled with laughter and the smell of basil. Chloe painted a mural on the fence, a riot of color and hope. Aiden built a birdhouse and watched as a family of sparrows moved in. Michael started a compost pile, teaching the children about patience and renewal. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, Michael made an announcement. "I've been thinking," he said, "about expanding your art school. What if we build a proper classroom in the backyard? I can do most of the work myself, and the kids can help." I protested that it wasn't necessary, but he insisted. "You saved my life, Mom, mine and the kids. It's the least I can do." The children cheered, already making plans for what the new space would look like. Aiden stood up, a little shy, and said he had something to share. He read an essay he'd written for a school contest. "My hero doesn't wear a cape or fly. My hero is 67 years old, has wrinkled hands from working so hard, and the biggest heart in the world. My hero is my grandmother, who taught me that true love isn't bought with expensive gifts or lavish trips. It's built with patience, with boundaries, with presence. My grandmother saved me from becoming a monster. She taught me that family isn't just blood, it's a choice. And I choose my grandmother today and always. Chloe followed with a poem, and Leo presented a drawing of all of us holding hands in front of the house. Above it the words, "My real family." After everyone had gone to bed, I sat in the garden under the full moon, the tomato plants heavy with fruit. I thought of Richard, my late husband, and whispered, "I did it, my love. I raised our son, and now I'm raising our grandchildren. Not how we imagined, but I'm doing it." I thought of Brooke, alone somewhere, and hoped she would one day find peace. I thought of myself, the retired teacher who was supposed to do nothing, and realized I'd never been so useful, so needed, or so happy. The following week, the principal at Lincoln Elementary confirmed my after-school art program. The children helped me prepare lesson plans and gather supplies. The first day, as I stood in front of a room full of eager faces, I felt the same thrill I'd felt on my very first day of teaching. Life had come full circle, and I was grateful for every twist and turn. Saturday dinners became a tradition, the table crowded with family and friends, the air filled with laughter and stories. Michael's debts were nearly paid off, and he was saving for a family vacation. The children thrived, their wounds healing, their hearts open. I watched them grow, proud and content, knowing that the love and boundaries I'd fought so hard to give them had taken root. On the next Mother's Day, the children surprised me again, this time with a garden party and a cake they'd baked themselves. They presented me with a certificate they'd made, "World's Best Mama Helen." I laughed and cried, surrounded by the family I'd fought for, the family I'd helped rebuild from the ashes of pain and betrayal. As the sun set and the garden glowed with golden light, I knew that the greatest lesson I'd ever taught was not in a classroom, but in the home I'd made with love, patience, and courage.